Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at Tencent and Prosus. Before we begin, remember take a second to give the video a like and subscribe to stay updated with the market. Do note that do not provide any buy or sell calls, but focus on the potential traps set up by the market makers. Without further ado, let's take a look at Tencent, the one listed in Hong Kong. So the ticker is 700. So you can see that for Tencent, we had the first upswing from 297 to a high of 403. So thereafter, we see a pullback down, and we saw a pullback all the way to around 325. However, if we look at this 38.2%, it's at 337, and this 23.6% at 322. So we were actually pulling back all the way to the last support, which is not really a good sign. But thankfully, we managed to get a very nice looking green candle on this particular day on 29th of April. So that is a good sign for now. So there is a chance for us of creating there's a low here, and then there's a higher low here. So to establish an uptrend, we need a higher high here as compared to this high. So only then we will then establish an uptrend and potential trend reversal for Tencent. So let's take a look at the resistance and supports upcoming. So you can see that Tencent on its recent swing from 403 to a low of 325, it managed to clear this 61.8% at 373.6, and even it hit this 78.6 at 386.8. So you can see that it was rejected off this last resistance here. But if we do manage to clear this resistance, then we may be looking towards this 403.6 high once again. Looking at the particular supports coming up, so you can see that after we did not manage to clear this 38.6, 386.8, we are pulling back down. So this 364, 356 and 349, all of these supports must hold for Tencent. And furthermore, you can see that there is this blue conversion line and red baseline, and currently sitting at around the red baseline is holding at 358, and the blue conversion line is at 356. So this will act as very, very strong and critical supports for Tencent. And if we manage to actually hold this this particular 356 and 358, then there is potential upside for Tencent, which is something like this. So let's take a look at its upside. So for instance, this is the first wave up, 297 to 403. So our second wave, we may be likely to be looking at a high of around 430s. So there's a possibility of a new high for Tencent. However, this particular support at 350 is very, very critical, and we cannot break down. Even if we do break down the last support, we're looking at 340 before we test back of 325. So this is a very, very critical support for Tencent in the upcoming sessions. Let's move on and take a look at the one Tencent listed in US. So this is the OTC. So very similar patterns. You can see that on the way up, we had a very strong wave up and pull back all the way down to a low of 41. So it's a very similar pattern to Tencent. On the way down, you can see that it managed to clear all resistance, 61.8% and even 78.6%. And we touched a high of around 48.67 here, which is this particular resistance at this level here. So we failed to clear this resistance, and we're pulling back for now. So currently, we are still holding this 61.8% at 45.81 pretty well. And the next support we'll be looking is 44.93 and 44.05. And the last support will be at 43. And just below this 43 psychological support level. Not forgetting there is this gap that needs to be closed as well. And you can see there's this blue baseline, blue conversion line, and this red baseline that is still holding, which is at 44.93 and 45.85. So these are essentially the last supports for Tencent holding. And if we manage to hold these supports, then we can also potentially create a rally. There's something like this. So let's take a look at the first wave patterns. So the first wave pattern will be first wave up here. So our second wave, we may be potentially creating a higher high at around $55 to $56. However, do bear in mind that 43 needs to hold, or else we will come back to retest this 41.19. And if this 41.19 will not to hold, then we will likely to see back this $37, $38. So let's take a look at TME now. So for TME, it is slightly stronger. You can see that on its pullback, we managed to hold this 38.2%. So 38.2% hold, you can see that we managed to close above this $4 psychological support on all these 4 days. Yes, we did break down on certain occasions and even went as low as this low was 381. So this is a very typical trap for the market makers, where they break a very strong psychological support of $4, and thereafter still manage to close above $4 because they managed to for those people who put stop losses at 380, 390, it gets triggered and then it continues to go up in the upcoming sessions. So that is a very typical sign of manipulation from the big boys. So let's move on to the potential resistance that is upcoming for Tencent Music. You can see that this blue line here, this blue conversion line, has now turned into support at 422, but we have to clear this red baseline at 468 to continue remaining bullish. As for the resistance to watch, it will be 454, 476, 498, and after clearing this $5 psychological resistance, then we are likely to be hitting 530 before we will see 571. Let's take a look at the potential upsides for this Tencent Music. So you can see that this first wave up was 295 to a high of 572, and the second wave up, we may be looking at an upside of around 657. So 426 must hold, and 454 ideally should hold as well. If 381 were to break down, then we are likely to see this, to test back this 360 before we see this 295, just below this $3 psychological support once again. So now let's take a look at Prosus. So if you look at Prosus, it's a very similar, it should be a similar pattern to Tencent. However, you can see that it is in fact a lot weaker than Tencent. So we can clearly see that there is this double bottom here. So relative to Tencent, Tencent is actually creating a higher low potentially a higher high. However, for Prosus, it's a lot weaker and significantly weaker, and we managed to create a double bottom at these levels here of around $48. So this is shows signs of weakness for Prosus, and you can see that on its way up, it's not doing too good. See that this blue conversion line is currently sitting at around 44.81, and this red baseline is currently sitting at 47.99. So these two will be a resistance for Prosus in the upcoming sessions. And if we do not clear it, then I'm afraid potentially and highly likely we may break down this low of 42 and then retest back this low of 40.58 once again. So it is important for us to to clear certain resistance quickly. So the resistance to clear are 46.59, 47.99, and also this 49.38 before we can go back to above 50 levels and even retest the highs of 53.91. Do bear in mind that there's also a lot of cloud resistance here. So on the way up, the cloud acts as a very strong resistance for Prosus. So from 49 all the way up to 58, you can see that this is a very, very thick resistance for Prosus, and definitely you'll see some struggles. So if there's any changes, I'll give you guys an update. Thanks for stopping by, and don't forget to subscribe as you keep the uptrend channel intact. Till we meet again, appreciate the manipulation.